You're listening to the Get Out and Drive podcast, fueled by AMD, with your hosts, John, Custom Car Nerd Meyer, and Jason, Old Car Guy Carr. We'll be bringing you gearheads everything you never wanted to know about cars and why they should be on the road and not in your garage. Are you ready to get out and drive?
Welcome back to another fantastic episode of the Get Out and Drive podcast, fueled by AMD.
Jason, what's going on in your neighborhood today?
Yeah, have I told you I've been watching the Rockford Files?
I love the Rockford Files.
Yeah, I've been watching that. Of course, it started in 73. The acting is horrible. The sound effects are terrible. Like every time a car starts in the first season, it's a Dodge starter, no matter what vehicle it is. It's that. Yeah. Anyways, I love watching it just for the shows. Most of the cop cars in early 70s were AMC Ramblers.
Yes. Matadors.
Or Matadors. And every once in a while, you'd get an LTD in there. And sometimes you'd see the great big, Continentals. And it's just fun to watch those shows going up through the 70s, seeing how bad the acting was, realizing how much smoking they allowed on TV back then. It was just the norm, right? Smoking and drinking and fist fighting. Like Jim Rockford, I mean, he got the crap beat out of him every episode. And it was no scars.
Well, his car changed gear all the time.
Yeah. And there was only ever 3 of them, apparently. I guess there was a couple of them that they were just junker cars that they painted and blew up. They blew one up and they ran one off a cliff. But most of the hero cars were actual, what were they, 73 Firebirds or something like that?
73 to 76, 77.
Yeah. And I watched an episode of Jay Leno's Garage where a guy had actually acquired one of the original hero cars and restored them.
There's a guy I follow that's called Screen Used Rockford or something like that. And I follow him on Instagram and other social media platforms. But yeah, he's got a lot of stuff. That's cool. And his car is may get me wrong here, 77 Esprit, because that was what his car was. No Trans Am, no tail, no fancy, no nothing.
No, apparently it did have a Pontiac 400, I think, in it, didn't it? 401 or something like that. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of areas in that show or in that series where they could have made the car sound good when it drove by the camera, but it was clearly a generic V8 sound.
Go for fun with Rockford Files. Go look up the phone number of Jim Rockford. And you will.
I know that you can dial it today, and you'll still get his voicemail.
You still get his voicemail, and that number has been used in other shows. And that was on. I can't remember if it was on the Jeffersons, but it was on a bunch of other shows, and it was that number. It might have even been Sanford Son, that like the number on his truck or something. I can't remember it. I have to look it up.
And in later episodes, it made reference to his address being on Cove Road. So when you go down Cove Road in Malibu and you look for the parking lot's still there. That original restaurant is still there. And where his trailer used to be, like it looks like you just stepped back into the 70s, right? Because you can see all the background, the cliff in the background, and all that stuff. I'm sure many of you know that I flew across the country to Kansas to buy a 1990 Chevy Suburban that I seen only in photos. I rounded up John and we took the Suburban on a 2,000-mile test drive back home to Canada because that's what car guys do. It was obvious that I was going to need some panel replacement, rust repair, and other restoration parts replaced, but I wasn't worried. Why? Because I knew AMD had high-quality restoration parts for square body, OBS GM trucks, Mopar muscle cars, and Ford dent-side pickups. Be sure to subscribe to the Old Car Guy YouTube channel to follow along as I restore my Suburban with quality AMD parts. Visit autometaldirect.com and use the code GOND for a 10% discount exclusively for our listeners for a limited time. AMD, built for enthusiasts by enthusiasts.
Yeah, that stuff is that's pretty awesome, and everybody that had anything to do with car chase stuff were all together and doing all of those shows. Everybody had a hand in it.
A-Team was another
Fall
one.
Guy,
You know,
yeah.
Fall Guy. Yep.
Chips Patrol, Chips.
Did you
Everybody.
know? Did you know that in Chips, I watched a little show on YouTube. I forget what the highway number was. I think it was like the number 5 freeway was just built, and they only used about a 2-mile section of that for almost every episode.
Correct. And at some point in times, it wasn't even finished, and they had full access to it. There were no cars on it, and that's why you see the same green Vega, you see the same green VW Bug, you see the same silver '75 Mustang II go by. All the cars. There's 15 cars they've got. You know.
Yeah, and at the same time, Corvette Summer was filmed on that same highway.
Yes.
And remember I forget what kind of car it was. Was it a black Trans Am?
For which? Oh, yes. That is that's the car that Mark Hamill had
In the chase scene,
Mhm.
where they get chased down by this.
That is correct, and it
villainous
has 3 hood scoops. It's got a shaker, Trans Am scoop, and a Formula hood.
Yeah. Anyways, when they're getting chased on this unfinished highway, it's that highway.
Yes.
Apparently, that section of highway that hadn't been built yet, and that's why they were able to film on it, because they just removed the construction company or equipment to film that. And that the behind the scenes in a lot of movies, to me, is amazing to see how they pulled that stuff together.
Mark Hamill's car from Corvette Summer, the black Trans Am, that's Ponch's car. Ponch's Trans Am. Same side pipes, same hood, shaker hood with formula scoops with a shaker cut in it. It's Ponch's car, except they painted it gold. Go back and look.
Dukes of Hazzard, Cooter's tow truck was used. I saw it on an episode of the A-Team, and I saw it on an episode of Chips one time. And I saw that story about Cooter's truck because it was owned by Warner Brothers. And so it was used in many different TV shows. When they need a tow truck, they just made a vinyl sticker or a magnetic sticker to stick on the door to cover up Cooter's garage.
Right. It's Cinema Vehicle Services. You call them up. You go, what do you need? I got a tow truck. And it's a red and blue, 70 Chevy tow truck. This is what you get. That's the Cinema Vehicle Services in California. They're at Hollywood, or I can't remember where they're at exactly, Burbank or whatever. But they supplied vehicles for everything. That's why George Barris was in cahoots with them and had so many vehicles in so many television shows.
Yeah. But back in the 60s and 70s, their inventory was very limited because of the low budget on a lot of these TV shows and movies. Today, we go back to when we interviewed Norman Altizer in one of my first episodes on the Get Out and Drive podcast. Like we did that episode and learned a lot about what it takes to be that guy, that supplier of certain cars. And you want to find cars? Well, he's the guy to go to. But back then, the budgets were so thin that's why they had a lot full of maybe 30 cars, and you saw them with multiple different shows.
Yeah. The red and white striped tomato from Starsky and Hutch, that was in the junkyard on the Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh, really?
Yes. There was several different cars that were from other television shows. Milner's Coupe was on an episode of Emergency.
Okay.
And as everybody knows, the car from Two Lane Blacktop ended up being on American Graffiti. That type of stuff crossed over so much. Everybody's seen so many cars. Farrah Fawcett's Foxy Vet was a getaway car on Chips. There's rewatching so many of these shows. There's so many custom cars that were just, they said, hey, I want a custom car. I want this kind of car. I want that car. There was just so many cars that were on television shows that George Barris had his hand in, because he would be the person to call and he could either make it or find it.
Yeah.
And then they went on several TV shows.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how, certain things come full circle. You know, just recording an episode talking about custom vehicles and whether or not they should be legal or not. And then jump into the movies, and, you know, a lot of those cars were custom built just to be a part of that movie, right? You know, they had custom sound equipment inside them so that when they were talking in the car, you could hear them over the noise of the windows being down and this and that. A lot of it was dubbed.
Oh, it was terrible.
Horribly dubbed.
The engine sound with the bark, second or third gear from Bullet, that was used in everything.
Yep. Or spinning tires, squealing tires on gravel road. It just added to the effect. And back then we accepted that as entertainment. We never questioned it.
Just recently, I saw on social media it's KIFT, I think. Somebody will correct me. But Knight Rider, the Knight 2000s industry, they had a Dodge Stealth, and they made it look like the Pontiac Banshee. Had that ugly sticking out nose and that ugly sticking out tail and everything, but there was a Dodge Stealth hiding inside there. You know, and just famous custom car designer decided this is what they did. They bought a couple of them and made them.
Yep. And that's the thing, when you're in Hollywood or you're in that area or in, you know, Southern California, it doesn't take long to find connections or people who knew people. Of course, you're dating yourself, because all those people who worked on those shows now, that was 50 plus years ago. You know, both of us, I'm nearing 50. You're just a bit over 50. So when we go back and we look, well, you know, when we weren't even a thing, these guys were in their heyday producing these fabulous custom cars. But when you're in Southern California, you know people who know people. That's why a lot of these Barris cars are coming up out of the woodwork. They've been hidden away, stored away for so long. We recently did an episode on Gene Winfield. A lot of his cars that have been hidden away for a long time they'll do the same thing. They'll start to come up through the woodwork and become valuable assets, valuable pieces of American auto enthusiast nostalgia. We're going to keep seeing these things for years and years, long after we're gone. You know, and I'm happy that, you know, not that I am necessarily a huge contributor to the auto enthusiast industry, but I admire it so. And that you and I doing this podcast, we have an opportunity to speak our mind and share our stories so that more and more people can hear, that they can hear about these cars and see that they actually existed and they're not just stories.
Right. Yeah, that's incredible. The guy who built that ugly looking piece of machinery in front of you is Ray Orberg. He built a lot of cars for movies and TV shows, and he built Bob Hope's golf cart with a big giant nose on it, and he built the Mork from Ork egg. He built Pac-Man. That's when Mork from Ork's egg became the Pac-Man car, and just show car after show car after show car. It's amazing. Yeah.
Well, you know, there's a lot of things that, you know, it'd be interesting to sit together and watch a movie and pick apart the deficiencies in some of these movies. You know, like how many times does that one car lose a hubcap in a chase scene, right? Like
we can watch RoboCop.
No.
That's a ridiculous movie.
No, we don't need to watch RoboCop.
Movies that are not really car guy movies, but they ended up being car guy movies.
Yeah, over a Ford Taurus.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you got me itching to watch some kind of an old show, so I think I'm going to leave and go watch Chips.
Yeah, I'm going to go and catch a few more episodes of Jim Rockford.
Have fun, Jason.
See you, John.
Are you ready to get out and drive in 2025? Get those cars on the road on October 5th, 2025 to celebrate National Get Out and Drive Day. Visit nationalgetoutandriveday.com for more info. Connect with us on social media. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Follow us on X at Get Out and Drive Pod. Cruise on over to our website, getoutanddrive.com, for all the info you never wanted to know about our podcast. Hit us up on our listener hotline, be the first to know what's happening, get industry news, and grab your Get Out and Drive merch.
What drives you?